I last left off with Whyte and how, with the college curriculum increasingly being geared toward specialization in business and commerce-related fields on behalf of large corporations, business schools had begun taking over institutions of higher learning by the 1950s. To Whyte, this was a distinctly anti-intellectual trend that could upend not just college education, but the entire education system as a whole. But Whyte returns to the college senior on his path to joining the ranks of the corporation. As there were more job vacancies than college graduates, the college senior set to graduate had an abundance of options available to him, and what he wanted most was a job with a training program. This was among the primary reasons why college seniors sought after positions at larger corporations. Small businesses did not offer such programs. Not all the large corporations offered them either, but seniors saw those that did as more ready to invest in them and more capable of backing up their promises of security, happiness, and perpetual advancement. As Whyte implies, however, the college senior also sought a training program because he was not ready for real opportunity yet. What he wants is a continuation, Whyte writes. He is used to formal training, and he is wary of stepping out into the arena without a good deal more. This is one of the reasons he does not incline to the smaller firm. It may offer opportunity, but it offers it too soon. By contrast, big businesses, reassuringly institutionalized schools, sometimes complete with classrooms, dormitories, and graduating classes, is an ideal next step. It will defer opportunity until he is ready for it. Apparently, even with the specialized programs available through business schools at the universities, the college senior did not feel himself prepared for the corporate and managerial workforce he so desired. And while Whyte does not intentionally browbeat the college senior, this final point, his timidity, paired with his political and philosophical indifference, his willingness to work hard, but not too hard, his desire to, first and foremost, do whatever it takes to fit in, and his taking the good, middle-class life as for granted, and especially given his proximity to global conflict, economic devastation, and so on, Whyte nevertheless depicts an entitled and seemingly cowardly figure. And these characteristics are not without their significance, as such figures were also set to be the next corporate middle managers and junior executives, positions which were offering increased power and influence in a more corporatized and bureaucratized culture. But here Whyte addresses the training programs the college seniors sought in some detail. Such programs had been around a long time, he explains, but just as the college curriculum had changed in recent years, so had the training programs. The older programs offered direct training to the specific job a man was hired for, only offering management courses years later if a young hire showed the right potential. The new programs, on the other hand, exposed the young hire directly to the managerial view before he was given a specific title. At the risk of oversimplification, Whyte writes, in one type of program, we will see that the primary emphasis is on work and on competition. In the other, on managing others' work and on cooperation. As an example of the older competition-based type of program, Whyte offers his own experience in the 1930s with the Vic Chemical Company's School of Applied Merchandising. The program offered little in the way of formal schooling, Whyte explains, and after just a few weeks in New York, he and other trainees were sent off to rural America for field study in order to gain practical experience in merchandising and sales. Here they were taught tactics perfectly in line with the open manipulation popularized by the likes of Dale Carnegie. As Whyte writes, they were taught how the man on the other side of the counter, that is to say, the druggist or man running the local general store, is the enemy. Whyte recounts the struggle of trying to meet the expectations of the program so far out in the country, even as far out as the hills of eastern Kentucky, but how a select few and he somehow managed to achieve enough success that they were eventually let loose on wealthier drugstores, presumably back in a more urban environment. As Whyte writes, slowly, as our sales-to-calls ratio crept up, we gained in rapacity, that is to say, excessive greed, and, somewhere along the line, By accident or skill, each of us finally manipulated a person into doing what we wanted him to do. Although Whyte looks back at this experience without remorse, he nevertheless dwells on it because, as he explains himself, it furnishes so apt an illustration of certain principles of indoctrination. And as I will also be discussing the perspective of the management of old in my next post, Whyte relates an additional account of how trainees were first indoctrinated at the Vic School of Applied Merchandising into the world of competition and survival of the fittest. That is helpful on multiple accounts. In the few weeks leading up to their field studies, Whyte describes how trainees got a taste of management philosophy directly from H.S. Richardson, the president of the company. He posed a hypothetical problem. Suppose, he said, that you are a manufacturer, and for a few years, a small firm has been making paper cartons for your product. He has specialized so much to service you, as a matter of fact, that that's all he does make. He is utterly dependent on your business. For years, the relationship has continued to be eminently satisfactory to both parties. But then one day, another man walks in and he says he will make the boxes for you cheaper. What do you do? He bade each one of us, in turn, to answer. But how much cheaper, we asked. How much time could we give the old supplier to match the new bid? Mr. Richardson became impatient. There was only one decision. Either you were a businessman, or you were not a businessman. The new man, obviously, should get the contract. Mr. Richardson, who had strong views on the necessity of holding to the old American virtues, advised us emphatically against letting sentimentality obscure fundamentals. Business was survival of the fittest, he indicated, and we should soon learn the fact. A new supplier offers you a lower price than the company you have been working with for years, and you are not even supposed to stop to ask a single question before dropping your old partnership. This obviously seems to be a terrible way to conduct business. But this was less about the realities of the business world and more about indoctrinating the young trainee into the business dog-eat-dog way of thinking. It was not survival of the fittest, but survival of the coldest and most willing to control and manipulate his way to success.
Friends, they say it's a man's world, but don't you believe it? It's a woman's world, too. Women are not only doing a fine job in the home and in industry, they are also making substantial contributions to scientific work.
As an example of the newer type of training program, in contrast to the old-style program centered on competition, Whyte paradoxically cites the older General Electric training program that he believes was still ahead of its time by the 1950s. It was a massive program with 250 full-time staff and an operating cost of $5 million annually. And as Whyte writes,
"See this? The grease drains right into this handy removable cup."
The program is highly centralized. To keep this plant running, GE's Corps of Recruiters each year delivers between 1,000 and 1,500 college graduates, mostly engineers, to the company's Schenectady headquarters. There the trainees enter what is for them a continuation of college life. Like fraternity brothers, they live together in boarding houses and attend classes in groups. For after-hour recreation, they have the privileges of the Edison Club, where, along with other GE employees with college degrees, can meet after classes to play golf, bridge, and enjoy a planned series of parties and dances. While only a small number of the thousands of trainees at General Electric would eventually manage to move on to executive positions, the program nevertheless emphasized what Whyte calls the managerial viewpoint. And more than any other work-related skill or area of specialty, it was this viewpoint that trainees aspired to most.
Never underestimate the resourcefulness of a woman. So, I am here to tell you about 2 General Electric ranges.
As Whyte continues, as they describe it, the manager is a man in charge of people getting along together, and his expertise is relatively independent of who or what is being managed, or why. Not surprisingly, the part of the curriculum for which they have the greatest affinity is the human relations instruction. They are particularly enthusiastic about the effective presentation course worked up by the sales training department. They can hardly be blamed. You can always get anybody to do what you wish, the textbook proclaims. To this end, the students spend 4 months eagerly studying a batter of communication techniques and psychological principles, which General Electric tells them will help them to be good managers. You can always get anybody to do what you wish, the textbook proclaims. Or, as Whyte adds, never say anything controversial. Again, this comes straight from the likes of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And while the rules from Carnegie's book are principally about manipulating other people for monetary gain, Whyte describes how the thinking behind such tactics of manipulation were being subject to change. As he continues, there is nothing novel about teaching people how to manipulate other people, and GE's scientific psychological techniques bear a strong resemblance to the How to Be a Success precepts standards in the U.S. for decades. What is different about them is their justification. They are not presented on the grounds that they will help make people do what you want them to do so that you can make more money. GE trainees do like the part about selling yourself to others so you can get ahead, for they think a lot about this. But they don't abide the thought of enemies on the other side of the counter. They see the manipulative skills as something that in the long run will make other people happy. As I have previously speculated then, the manipulative methods that Carnegie taught all the way back in the 1910s did in fact become the norm, or at least this is verified by Whyte. But perhaps more importantly, in just a generation's time, from when he helped to solidify that norm with his popular aforementioned book, published in 1936, these methods have become even more twisted. Yes, you should manipulate other people for your own benefit, but it is also for the other person's own good as well. And naturally, of course, with such twisted methods of manipulation was paired the push for conformity. And that is where I will pick back up next time. I hope to see you there.